Hello, and welcome to the beginning of a several-part series on the Cogitation of Final Fantasy IV. The first two videos will be introductions, the first of which being my introduction into the game, and the second will be more about world building and introducing you to the characters and the world itself. So before we begin the game proper, let me tell you about what led me to this game to begin with, to the best of my ability. In 1994, I was 9 years old, and I've been gaming for years. But I haven't heard the term role-playing game until I was at a friend's house watching him play Phantasy Star IV. That game drew me in for the 30 or so minutes I watched it, and I wanted to get a role-playing game of my own. So I saved my money and bought a used copy of Final Fantasy IV. But I didn't know what to prepare for, and I didn't get very far the first time I played it. But I came back to the game again and again. The more I played, the more the game drew me in, more so than Phantasy Star did. The thing is, I've always enjoyed reading, and read beyond my age level from a young age, so it was the story that kept me coming back to it. I didn't understand much of what we'll be discussing later, but I thought that kind was cool. The ability to summon these huge monsters. Keep in mind, we're talking about the Super Nintendo generation here. And I just thought the music was so good. The game had several remakes and versions, and I played most of them. I didn't realize until later that even though I enjoyed the Super Nintendo version script, it's actually quite poor. So I won't be using a long play of that version for this cogitation. I'll be using the DS version. It's longer, which helps flesh out more of the story, and it includes scenes that other versions does not, and it has a better translation. In this series, I will be editing out much of the random encounters and bosses, unless they have some bearing to the story or the themes which we'll be discussing as we go throughout this series. I realize now that the game is not perfect and doesn't hold to the highest of regards that I held for it. One of the primary reasons that my issues come up with is that the 5-character max party system causes some issues. One of the ways the game chooses to remove party members is, quite frankly, silly, and it satirizes other forms of science fiction. However, there also is one instance that I can think of that's actually done really well, and I was proud of myself for figuring it out before the game reveals it to you. So, in the interest of being fair in this cogitation, I won't treat those bad scenes with kid gloves, or hide some of the hammy voice acting. With that said though, welcome to this cogitation. We'll begin this game with some groundwork, and as we reach new areas, I will explain more about them. So welcome everyone to Final Fantasy IV.